Out to my very special guest, Elizabeth Kucinich, Director of Government Affairs for Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, PCRM. Elizabeth, you've been inside these labs. Tell us from the heart, how did it impact you to see these animals in cages?
It made me feel quite sick, to be honest. I was not prepared to see how young these chimpanzees were going to be. You know, we can be very sensitive to children and think about adults in a different way. Well, I'm sensitive to obviously all animals of all ages. But when you see baby chimpanzees, and I'm talking 2 years, 4 years, you know, they are still children. They need to be with their families, and yet these chimpanzees had just gone through an invasive research protocol. They'd been injected with different things and had been taught to acquiesce, which is when they put their arms out, and we were told about how they would cry when they were injected with things, and they would be calmed down, and it was almost, well, it was sick, I have to say that. And I'm very pleased to I've been working on this issue for so many years now, and to see the movement that is happening in the House and the Senate, particularly after the Institutes of Medicine released their report at the end of last year saying we don't need to be using chimpanzees in any areas of medical research. We've got better models, we don't need them, and you know, it costs the taxpayers a lot of money as well to just be warehousing many of these chimpanzees in obviously facilities which are awful for them, which are very expensive for taxpayers and are absolutely no use to us scientifically or medically. So the Great Ape Protection Act is, it's great that it's moving, but we need it to move quickly before the end of session.
Absolutely. Elizabeth, look at these animals doing these repetitive motions that show that they are suffering. They're suffering because they're going mad. We can stop it. We can pass the Great Ape Protection Act. These chimps are individuals. They're highly social. They're highly intelligent. They feel pain. They feel loneliness. They feel sorrow. And now there was an 8-year-old male chimp named Chaos who reportedly died last year while being transferred from one facility to another. Tell us in general terms, what happened to this poor creature?
With Chaos, well, he was transported from a facility in Maryland and been taken back to Louisiana, which a facility called New Iberia, which has lots of chimpanzees in awful conditions. And he died in transit. There's an investigation to see what happened. There's a question as to whether he was actually fed on the way and given adequate water and may have just died of starvation on there. But, you know, these things happen and they shouldn't. Like I said before, we don't need to be using chimpanzees.
And New Iberia, we've reached out to them many times in the past. You just mentioned them. They're invited on our show anytime. We want to hear their side. I have questions I would love to ask them. Listen, we've got to get this Great Ape Protection Act passed. Medical science has already done an in-depth study that says these chimps are not necessary. In fact, the money we use on those chimps could be used at the molecular and submolecular level. Just like we don't take boats to Europe anymore, we don't need to put these animals into torturous situations when we really uncover things at the submolecular level. You have started a change.org petition. Go to hlntv.com/Jane. You can find out all about this. What do you want people to do? Should they call their senators and members of Congress and say, pass the Great Ape Protection Act?
Basically, they should. You know, if they can visit pcrm.org, they will find all the information there, all the talking points. You can send an email, write a letter, make a phone call, just take action so that, you know, your senator and your representative in the House understand why this is so important for the chimpanzees, yes, but also for medical research, for our own human health. We are wasting so much money on warehousing chimpanzees that are not yielding information that we need.
You are fabulous.